This is a story about a mother who was found brutally murdered in her own home, stabbed 17 times while she slept. But the shocking thing wasn't just the crime itself, it was who helped plan it. A young woman, fragile, sick, confined to a wheelchair her entire life, was the mastermind of this evil act. A girl the world believed was dying turned out to be hiding one of the darkest secrets imaginable. A daughter who planned her own mother's death. But before saying anything or judging anyone, hear the story from the beginning. And before we get into this, if you're interested in the psychology behind real crime cases like this, consider subscribing to the channel. Because stories like this let you recognize criminal patterns, which will help you protect yourself and loved ones. This is the story of Dee Dee Blanchard and her daughter, Gypsy-Rose Blanchard, and nothing about it is what it seems. In a quiet neighborhood in Springfield, there was a small pink house that stood out from the rest. It had a wheelchair ramp, a neatly kept yard, and a story that pulled at everyone's heart. Inside lived Dee Dee Blanchard and her daughter Gypsy-Rose. To neighbors, Dee Dee was a devoted, selfless mother, the kind who sacrificed everything for her sick child. And Gypsy? She was the sweet, soft-spoken girl in a wheelchair, with big glasses, a shaved head, and a voice that sounded much younger than her age. People were told she suffered from leukemia, muscular dystrophy, seizures, even brain damage. She couldn't walk. She couldn't eat solid food. She needed constant care. And Dee Dee provided it all. The community rallied around them, donations, free trips, even a home built by charity. To everyone watching, it was a story of resilience, of a mother fighting against impossible odds. But behind closed doors, something was very, very wrong. Long before Springfield, the story had already begun to unravel. Dee Dee, born Claudine Pitre, had a complicated past. Even in her younger years, there were whispers. Family members who claimed she lied frequently, exaggerated illnesses, manipulated situations for attention. Some even suspected she had poisoned a relative. Nothing was ever proven, but the pattern was there. When Gypsy was born in 1991, Dee Dee's focus shifted entirely onto her daughter. At just a few months old, Dee Dee claimed Gypsy had sleep apnea. Doctors ran tests. They found nothing. But that didn't stop Dee Dee. Over the years, the list of diagnoses grew longer and more severe. She told doctors Gypsy couldn't walk, so Gypsy was put in a wheelchair. She said Gypsy had seizures, so she was given medication. She claimed Gypsy had cancer, so her head was shaved, and slowly, something dangerous began to take shape. This condition has a name: factitious disorder imposed on another. It's when a caregiver fabricates or induces illness in someone else, usually for attention, sympathy, or control. And in this case, Gypsy was the victim. But as the years passed, the line between victim and participant became blurred. Because Gypsy wasn't as sick as people believed. In fact, she could walk. Doctors started noticing inconsistencies. One neurologist, Bernardo Flasterstein, became suspicious. Tests showed no signs of muscular dystrophy. He even saw Gypsy stand on her own. "I don't see any reason why she can't walk," he said. But Dee Dee dismissed him. And then she never returned, just to cover her secret from the entire world. After that, no report was made, no intervention followed, and the cycle continued. At home, Gypsy's world was tightly controlled. Her mother monitored everything: what she said, what she did, who she spoke to. Gypsy later claimed she was sometimes physically restrained, threatened, even starved. She wasn't allowed to grow up. She wasn't allowed to question anything. Even her own age was hidden from her. Imagine living your entire life, not knowing what's real, not knowing if you're actually sick, not knowing if you're allowed to be free. That was Gypsy's reality. But something changed when the internet entered her life. Late at night, When Dee Dee was asleep, Gypsy would sneak onto the computer. That's where she discovered a world beyond her bedroom, a world where she wasn't the sick girl, a world where she could be normal. That's when she met Nicholas Godejohn, a quiet, socially isolated man from Wisconsin. Their connection started innocently, but quickly became intense. They exchanged messages, fantasies, even created alternate personalities. For Gypsy, Nicholas wasn't just a boyfriend. He was an escape, a way out. But escape wasn't simple. In 2011, Gypsy tried to run away. Her mother found her. What happened next would leave a lasting mark. Gypsy later said Dee Dee smashed her phone, destroyed her computer, and threatened to break her fingers if she tried again. After that, the control became even tighter. But so did Gypsy's desperation. By 2015, their online relationship had evolved into something darker. Gypsy confided in Nicholas about everything, the lies, the control, the years of abuse, and slowly a dangerous idea began to form. At first, it was just talk, fantasy. What if she was gone? But over time, that question became a plan. Gypsy believed there was only one way to be free, and Nicholas was willing to do anything for her. In June 2015, the plan was set into motion. Gypsy mailed Nicholas money for a bus ticket. He traveled to Springfield, and on the night of the murder, everything changed. The night was quiet. Too quiet. Inside that small pink house in Springfield, everything appeared normal. The lights were off. The neighborhood slept peacefully. But inside, something irreversible was already in motion. Nicholas had arrived. He stepped into the house carefully, guided by someone who knew every corner of it. Gypsy-Rose Blanchard had planned this moment down to the smallest detail. She knew when her mother would be asleep. She knew which floorboards creaked. She knew exactly where the knife was. And most importantly, she knew what had to be done. She handed Nicholas Godejohn the gloves, the duct tape, the knife. There was no hesitation anymore, no second thoughts, only action. Gypsy retreated into the bathroom, shutting the door behind her. She turned on the faucet, then covered her ears. But even through running water and trembling hands, some sounds can't be drowned out. In the bedroom, Dee Dee lay asleep, completely unaware. The woman who had spent years controlling every aspect of her daughter's life now lay defenseless. Nicholas moved closer, and then he attacked 17 times. The knife rose and fell again, and again, and again. It was fast, violent, final, and just like that, Dee Dee Blanchard was gone. When it was over, the house fell silent again, but the silence felt different now, heavier, permanent. Gypsy stepped out of the bathroom. The reality of what had just happened hung in the air. There was no going back. But what happened next would confuse investigators and disturb the public even more. Instead of panic, there was calm. The two went into another room. They talked, they ate, they even became intimate. It didn't look like fear. It didn't look like trauma. It looked like relief. They took cash from the house, thousands of dollars. Then they left, not running, not hiding in panic, but moving with a strange sense of purpose. They stayed in a motel, laughed, recorded videos. At one point, Gypsy was heard joking casually, as if nothing had happened. To her, this wasn't just a crime, it was freedom. Days passed, and back in the neighborhood, something felt wrong. Friends tried to contact Dee Dee. No response. Calls went unanswered. The house looked untouched, but the silence was unsettling. Then a post appeared online from Dee Dee's Facebook account. It read something disturbing, something completely out of character. People began to worry. Concern quickly turned into fear. Neighbors gathered outside the house. They knocked. Nothing. Eventually, police were called. When officers arrived, they noticed something strange immediately. Gypsy's wheelchair was still inside, her medical equipment untouched. If something had happened, how could she have left? Was she taken? Was she hurt? Or worse? A search warrant was issued. Officers entered the home, and what they found confirmed everyone's worst fears. Dee Dee's body, lifeless, brutally stabbed. The room told a violent story, but the bigger question remained, where was Gypsy? At first, investigators feared the worst. A disabled girl, unable to walk, missing after her mother's murder. It sounded like an abduction, a tragedy within a tragedy. The community panicked. People prayed, shared posts, donated money, hoping she would be found alive. But then, everything changed. Police began tracing the strange Facebook post. It led them to an IP address, not in Missouri, but in Wisconsin, specifically to the home of Nicholas Godejohn. Within hours, authorities closed in. When they entered the home, they didn't find a terrified victim. They found Gypsy, alive, standing, walking. That moment shattered everything. The image the world had believed for years collapsed instantly. The wheelchair, the illnesses, the helpless girl. It had all been a lie. As the interrogation began, the truth unfolded piece by piece. Nicholas confessed quickly. Yes, he killed Dee Dee. Yes, Gypsy planned it. Yes, it was intentional. But his explanation raised even more questions. He said he did it for love, that Gypsy asked him to, that she needed to be free. Then came Gypsy's turn. Her voice was soft, calm, almost childlike. But her words carried weight. She didn't deny it. She didn't run from it. She explained it. Years of control, years of lies, years of being trapped in a body the world believed was broken. I just wanted to be free. And suddenly, the case wasn't simple anymore. Was she a victim, or was she a mastermind? As the investigation dug deeper, the truth became more disturbing. Doctors came forward, records were examined, and it became undeniable. Gypsy had been abused for most of her life, through deception, through control, through something known as factitious disorder imposed on another. The public reaction shifted overnight. At first, people mourned Dee Dee. Then, they questioned her. And slowly, sympathy turned toward Gypsy. But sympathy didn't erase the crime. A woman was still murdered, brutally, deliberately. The trial would determine what justice looked like in a case like this. Gypsy accepted a plea deal, second-degree murder, 10 years in prison. For her, it was a chance at something she had never truly experienced. A future. Nicholas' trial was very different. Prosecutors painted him as the killer, the one who carried out the act, the one who made the choice to stab again and again. His defense argued something else entirely, that he was manipulated, that he was vulnerable, that he fell into a fantasy he couldn't separate from reality. In court, messages between them were revealed, dark, disturbing, filled with planning and emotion. It wasn't a sudden decision. It was built over time. The jury didn't hesitate. Nicholas Godejohn was found guilty of first-degree murder. Sentence, life in prison, no parole. 2 people, 2 different roles, 2 very different outcomes. But even after the verdict, the story didn't end. Because this case left behind something deeper than just a crime. It left questions. How did so many people miss the signs? Doctors, neighbors, authorities? How did a lie last this long? And perhaps the most uncomfortable question of all, if Gypsy had never been abused, would Dee Dee still be alive? Today, Gypsy walks freely again after serving her time. She speaks openly about her past, about the abuse, about the crime, about the choices she made. Some people see her as a survivor, others see her as something else. But now the real question is, was Gypsy-Rose Blanchard truly at fault for planning her mother's murder, or was Dee Dee Blanchard responsible for years of control, deception, and taking away her daughter's identity and freedom, or is the truth somewhere in between? Because this isn't a simple story of right and wrong. It's a story where both victim and perpetrator exist in the same space. So, what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your perspective. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, kindly do so for more true crime stories. I want to hear your perspective. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, kindly do so for more true crime stories.